This is Heavy Radio. Marco and Eric rocking you here, and we have a awesome, badass guest. We have Jeff Plate from Sabotage. You might know him from Trans-Siberian Orchestra, from Metal Church, playing with Chris Caffery, and also a new band, Alta Rain, that we're going to talk about. And we got some cool stuff going on. We're going to say a happy birthday to Michael Kiske from Halloween and Unisonic. January 24th, 1968, Michael Kiske was born. We got some amazing power metal vocals still coming out of him. And yeah, go ahead. We got January 24th, 1976, Heavy Radio Time Machine, the live version of Kiss Rock and Roll All Night from Alive One, peaked at number 12 on the chart. And so many people we've had on over the time that we've been doing this have been influenced by that, especially those early days of Kiss. So there's been quite the connection there among metalheads from all over the spectrum.
Yep. And I said one more fun news story. I saw the band Fraternity, which Bon Scott was a member of and wrote for before joining AC/DC. They'd had two releases back in the early 70s, and they just haven't really been remastered, been really hard to find all these years. So the original band members have gotten together to get those original recordings and remaster them and clean them up for release. And in the process, sounds like they found some B-sides and some unreleased stuff with Bon Scott. So they're currently working on getting that out to everybody. So that was some exciting news out there, especially for AC/DC fans.
Yeah, from what I know about that, that transition that Bon Scott went through was really interesting, because it seemed like he was almost just like a hippie kind of guy living in a commune with a big beard during that time. So it's kind of crazy that he went from that to kind of one of the first big iconic rock and roll frontmen. It's quite an interesting character, that Bon Scott.
For sure.
But yeah, we'll get into it here with Jeff Plate, and we've played quite a bit of Sabotage and Metal Church over the year so far on Heavy Radio. So it's awesome. It's an honor to have you here, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
And let's I guess to start out, just kind of what have you been up to in this period that we've all been having to change our artistic output? What have you been up to in the last year?
Well, yeah, COVID really kind of kicked in just a little less than a year ago. So it's basically derailed the world for the past year. It's amazing what's happened. But myself personally, obviously when COVID kicked in, the big concern was the TSO tour. And the Trans-Siberian Orchestra tour happens every year, as it has for 21 years in a row. We've never canceled a show. So we were kind of hoping when COVID started that we might be able to figure this out and get on with it. But that did not happen, obviously. It was about August when we realized that we had to make the call and cancel the tour. But oddly enough, this time off, and I mean, it wasn't just TSO, but I was playing locally, all the live entertainment stopped. So this really gave me the chance last year to completely focus on this Alta Rain record and get it done. So just trying to make the best of a bad situation, but it really gave me a lot of time to just focus on one thing. And I mean, the whole COVID thing sucks, but as far as the end result of Alta Rain and what we've accomplished, it all happened at the right time. So I feel good about that, even though it just like I said, the world, the music industry, everybody just got completely put off track by this thing. But yeah.
Yeah, so the positive is that Mother's Day came out on January 8th, and Rat Pack Records is that the best way to check it out?
Yep, go to Rat Pack Records. You can go to our Facebook page, the Alta Rain Facebook page. It's available now everywhere. You can find it on Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, iTunes, all of the above. So it's out there. But the all the band info is at Rat Pack. We've got on the pages, like I mentioned. So far, so good. We've had a great response from it. We did chart on Billboard, which was very, very cool for our first week of sales, the first week of release. And yeah, it's all working out really well.
Yeah, and this has Jane Mangini. So did you meet her through playing with the TSO?
Yeah, so it's like every year we'd go to TSO rehearsals. There's so many people, we always talk to each other about, we should do this or we should do that. And I started this project with a couple local guys a couple of years ago. And once we got some stuff developed, I turned Jane onto it, and she fell in love with the songs, and she contributed some keyboard parts. When she first started submitting parts, I was like, wow, okay, this is really adding something dynamically to this music and this sound that we have. That it took us from a guitar-driven hard rock metal band to making it a little more progressive. It opened a couple doors, I think, as far as the sound and the scope of what we were doing. But Jane is awesome. She's awesome. She's one of the best keyboardists out there, and her style fit with this perfectly. It was just such a great fit overall. But working with Jane has been awesome. She just always, every time I submitted a song to her, she would get back to me with several different parts. All were great. We just had to sort it out and edit it, but she really contributed a lot to the sound.
Awesome. Yeah, Eric and I, when we were in high school, we had one of those amazing experiences with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Like Eric and I, it was like that time period after grunge. So kids our age weren't as much into heavy metal, but we always loved. I actually had a Dr. Butcher shirt on, and we looked more like we were going to a Dr. Butcher shirt. This was when TSO was still playing like civic centers and more like classy classy smaller venues with like classical music is normally played. So Paul O'Neill noticed us and called us over and just gave us like the most amazing night, because he brought us up to Al Pitrelli, to Johnny Lee Middleton, and he wrote all over my program. Wrote this story like Marco came backstage and drank Al Pitrelli under the table, and it was just like the most amazing thing for like a teenager to experience. Like, it was such a cool night, and he was just so rad. So yeah, I had some great memories from meeting Paul. And
the concert was amazing.
Where did you actually see them at?
It was in Des Moines, Iowa, at a place called the Civic Center in downtown. And I'm still out of Des Moines. Eric is now in California.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the Dr. Butcher shirt, and I'll remember the very first show that we ever played with TSO. You look out in the audience, there's families, there's young kids. There's a couple of people in the front row with a dude with a tuxedo and a woman with this beautiful dress on, and we were like, "Oh God, they're here to see an orchestra. They have no idea what they're going to get." But at the same time, there was grandparents, there was people with Metallica shirts and people with Testament shirts and Sabotage shirts. It was just such a surreal moment, and I can remember standing on the side of the stage with Johnny. And we looked out at the audience, and we were nervous because we didn't know how this was going to go. And Johnny looks at me and goes, "Brother, we're doomed." And we got out there on stage and did that show. Nobody left. Standing ovation.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. But that's how this TSO thing started. And honestly, to this day, even though we're doing arenas, you look around the audience and there's metalheads, there's everybody. Old, young, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's been really awesome watching the trajectory of that. And now there's people that's like their Christmas tradition, and it's freaking awesome.
I tell you, I have had the best seat in the house concerning that, because just being able to sit on stage and, every year I'd watch this thing grow, is either the size of the audience or the size of the production, the size of the venue that we were in. It's just amazing. I go up on stage every night we do a show and look around. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe what this thing has become. But to your point, being this yearly tour it has become a tradition for a lot of people, and
Hmm.
that's one of the main reasons why we did the live stream last year. It was, these folks have stuck with us for over 20 years, and it always sounds cliche. We would not be here without them, but literally, we would not be here without them. So doing that live stream was something to, give back to the audience and keep that tradition going, and it just worked out extremely well.
That's cool. Yeah, TSO is just a part of the holidays. Like I got to listen to the TSO records every year. For sure.
Yep, yep. And who would have thought? I mean, when we did Sabotage, that's where Christmas Eve Sarajevo first appeared. And I remember in the studio, we all looked at each other like, what is Paul thinking, putting this Christmas song on this record? And when we heard the final version of the song, there was no denying it was awesome. It sounded fantastic. But to think that that song would take off in a completely different direction and still be the driving force behind what TSO is, nobody would have guessed it. But it's been a great run.
Yeah, and I think another amazing thing is that another great person that we encountered over the years, we did a chat with Mike Howe when he came back to Metal Church. So I think between, the Oliva brothers and Mike Howe, we really worked with some people that so many metalheads revere. And Mike Howe still sounded amazing. He was really amped. It sounded really excited to be back. And yeah, those records to me are really ripping, really, exactly what I wanted from a new Metal Church record. So that's really cool as well.
Yeah, when he came back, it was definitely a breath of fresh air. Kurt Vanderhoof, it's funny, Metal Church and Sabotage, they've known each other for years and have never toured together. I just always was kind of baffled by that, but they've always kind of run the same path. They've gone through some bad management, they've gone through tragedy, they've gone through, just ups and downs with the music business, but they're both so unique. And Sabotage has its own sound, as does Metal Church with Vanderhoof. Vanderhoof is probably one of the most underrated metal guitarists out there. He's just such a great metal riff writer.
Yeah.
But I loved playing in that band. And when Mike came back in and we did XI, it really was just, it was such a shot of adrenaline for all of us. And I was very, very proud of that record. But after that, after doing a couple of years of touring that record, it was time for me to move on. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tremendous album. Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you, speaking of being inspired and energized, as I always like to ask all musicians, like, what kind of was that spark where you're like, what kind of set you on the path to play music, where you're just like, oh, that's what I want to do?
So when I was young, I mean, I live in the country, so I was just brought up around country music, and I only had 3 television channels. And there wasn't a whole lot to choose from. But I remember when I was 12, the band Chicago first got my interest. But a year later, I saw Kiss on the Midnight Special, and that just blew my mind. I remember sitting in the living room with my cassette deck, my little General Electric cassette recorder, holding it up to the speaker, and they came out. They did Deuce, they did Black Diamond. And then they came back again and they replayed Deuce and they did She. But yeah, I'm a 13-year-old kid and there's Paul Stanley's up there and it was like, oh my God. But anyhow, that is when I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I had already started playing drums in school and I started taking lessons, and yeah, here I am all these years later. It's funny you mentioned Kiss earlier, how they have inspired and influenced so many metalheads. It's like literally it changed my life. It seriously changed my life.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a watershed moment around that time with Kiss coming out and just how many bands they've influenced and still kicking ass.
Yeah, still kicking ass. They still sound great. And honestly, I will talk about the songs later, but I listened to that live record and man, it is heavy. Back at the time, I didn't think about it so much because you were kind of focused on the theatrics and the way that they looked. but man, there's some wicked heavy songs on that record. So I love it. I love it
Yeah,
still.
I
Totally.
feel like Black Diamond not only then was so heavy, but like almost like unlike anything else except for maybe some Black Sabbath heaviness, but now it still holds up even with,
Yeah.
some of the different tunings and the extra strings, like that still holds up as a heavy song
Uh,
in today right now.
yeah, there's a number of them. I mean, Watching You, 100,000 Years, Black Diamond,
Yeah.
She, uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deuce right out of the gate. That's just badass stuff. It was very raw, but a lot of great energy. And Gene and Paul had a thing where vocally the vocals were great. They really sounded so well together. And but underneath it, the music was wicked heavy. I think probably more so than people even realized at the time.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, with that, we'll get into our heavy radio tracks. Heavy Radio 22. We'll get the tracks we're adding here to the playlist with Jeff Plate and Eric. What do you got to start off?
Yeah. See, for new stuff, one of my new ones this week, I have the song Drilled to Kill by the Michael Schenker Group, one of my all-time faves. So he actually recruited Ralph Sheepers of Primal Fear for this album, and this is the first single for the record that's coming out, and it's super heavy, super aggressive, just classic Michael Schenker. I'm really excited. He had an album with the Michael Schenker Fest in 18, then another one in 19, and so he's just been putting out a ton of music the last few years. And as a huge fan, I'm just really excited to get all these new songs. And band sounds great. They sound super inspired and excited. So yeah, I'm really excited for this record to come out. So check out the first single, Drilled to Kill.
Cool. What I guess we will start off with some newer tracks. What's a newer song that you're adding to the playlist, Jeff?
Well, I want to plug my own band, Alter Rain. Thin Red Line. Thin Red Line is one of the first songs. Actually, the second song that we released as a single, but it's heavy. It's got an old school kind of groove to it. It's been received really well. So this is probably one of the more metal songs on the record, even though there is a lot of metal strewn throughout all the songs, really. But this one here just really kicks ass. I absolutely love this song, and like I said, the response to it's been great.
Hell yeah. I'll go with, I actually chose for one of my new tracks a song off the album as well, Mother's Day, Alter Rain, check it out, Rat Pack Records. But the song I chose was Rise, featuring Chris Caffrey. And yeah, I just love you guys playing together, whether it's Sabotage, Metal Church, now Alter Rain. We actually we saw Metal Church come through here too, and when Chris Caffrey was playing with them, and that was just an amazing tour run as well to see. And the sound was so good. I loved like seeing it in a little club, and it sounded just as good as seeing TSO at the Civic Center. So they're just a great combination of players that play well off each other, even when it comes to getting their levels right with each other and everything. So
hey,
yeah.
I remember that show. It was a small club.
Yeah.
And Tim Harding, our sound guy, did a really good job of dialing us in. But I remember the one band that opened up for us, and this guy had like this 40-inch bass drum. It was like a marching band bass drum that he was playing on his kit. And it was so cool. The guys were a really heavy rock band, and they were awesome. But yeah, I remember that show. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think maybe just hearing it from a fan perspective, like to me, it's so cool to see both, like the big arena show, but then bands that are willing to go and do, the club thing in a city maybe that hasn't had a band like that play for a long time. Like it really means a lot to the people that come out. Like, and it's just so cool. Some of my best memories are those shows where it's like a smaller venue, and it's a really cool experience. So you kind of, any of the nights can really be magical for the people that show up.
Yep, when you have fans literally 6 feet from you,
Right.
it really adds to the whole environment, the whole vibe of the show. I've always told people it's like I have no problem getting up in front of 50,000 people. That's to me that crowd is not really people, it's just a thing, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
But you play in a small club with maybe 100 people or 150 people and every eye is on you and you can see everybody's face. That's when it gets for me that's when it becomes more important because that's you
yeah.
really got to connect with them that way.
Yeah, and I can appreciate two people that come to mind are yourself and Joey Belladonna that do kind of still play out locally. And I think it's really cool, honestly, to be doing the whole spectrum of what a musician goes through and not just, go back to only one sort of touring. So hopefully that sort of thing will help people get through this time period too, because I think maybe the local stuff will try maybe before some of the big productions. So we'll see how that plays out too.
Yeah, I agree. I know I'm in upstate New York and they haven't opened things up enough yet for local music to start, but I do agree that that's where it's probably first going to get kicked off. And the bigger venues, I mean, they just have there's an issue there with insurance and their promotion, and there's so much involved in the big shows. The smaller ones are where it's going to get kick-started. So, hey, let's hope it happens sooner or later.
Oh yeah.
for sure.
Heavy Radio new tracks. What else you got for the playlist, Aaron?
Yeah, I got a song "Ruby Dragon" by One Morning Left. These guys their whole style is just like 80s like neon laser show. It's like a power metal, but super great. The riffs are awesome, super catchy vocals. The chorus is actually why I picked this song. Just got stuck in my head instantly. So One Morning Left is the band. I haven't dug into their catalog, but I definitely want to. So definitely check out the song "Ruby Dragon."
Hell yeah. What's your next new track, Jeff?
I got Todd La Torre, and I'll be honest with you. It's like I am not the band you just mentioned, Eric.
Mm.
That's the first time I've ever heard of them. There's
Yeah,
there's so much music out there. It's hard to keep up with all of
yeah,
these bands. But Todd La Torre has a new project. Dark and Majesty is the song, and it's like one of the first songs that he released on Rat Pack. But Todd is awesome. I love what he does with Queensryche. He sang with Metal Church. He did a version of Fake Healer with us, and
nice.
Yeah,
he's
that was fucking great.
that was awesome. I was kind of disappointed that that version didn't get more traction. But I thought it really came out well. And Todd is he's a metalhead. He's a drummer. He kicks ass, and the song is really cool. It's got some old Priest you can hear in it, some old Metal Church. It's old school metal, and it's really really good.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
I actually, you can't see it, but I got a Queensryche tattoo on my arm, and I actually got that more recently after seeing them with Todd. I've seen them along the way. Actually, the first time I ever drank a beer in a venue, I was drinking it in the front row next to Jeff Tate. He took it and took a sip of it, gave it back to me, and was singing "Take Hold the Flame." So I've been a fan of them through all their different ups and downs and different lineup changes. But Todd, just a rad dude, great front man, amazing voice.
Yep.
Yeah, I love this. I love this record, and I'm always happy to hear anything he's doing, whether it's Queensryche or something else. And yeah, that pairing with Metal Church was so cool.
Yep.
I love also when bands kind of, every once in a while you revisit an old track just because so many things have changed as far as technology, and then also
Yep.
how you look at a song after so much time can definitely change, or maybe you wanted to do something different and you get a chance to.
Well, I think that was what was Vanderhoof's approach to that. The original Fake Healer sounds fantastic, but that was, God, 20 years prior to when we recorded this. And yeah, he knew that the new band sounded really, really good. And Todd had he was always kind of in contact with us. Todd is a huge Mike Howe fan. And when this opportunity came up, it seemed like, well, this is a no-brainer. But the end result was great. I was really happy with that.
Hell yeah. My next new track is actually from Metal Church. It was from 2016 with Killing Your Time on XI. And to me, this was just Mike Howe on top of his game. Just it just sounded like, he didn't miss a beat from when he was last in the band. And just the energy of this song and energy, badass lyrics. It was just to me, it was a great Metal Church song. Like if you go back through the whole catalog, it's a strong track.
Yep, and Kurt was really inspired at this time too, because getting Mike back into the fold, everybody was excited about this. It wasn't just the band, but the fan base. Uh, everybody around was excited about that. And Kurt wrote one hell of a record. I mean, XI is just good front to back. I'm
Hmm.
very proud of that.
Did you play on the songs from the Vault? The additional release that came out, it was like other additional tracks from that time period, I think.
No, I think that was Stet. Kurt might have even played a couple songs on that. I'm
Yeah,
not even sure.
gotcha.
So,
I wasn't sure where those came from, but there's definitely a similar vibe anyway, but that could be just the songwriting process.
yeah, I think maybe a couple of them came from the XI sessions that didn't make it on the record, but no, that was after I had left.
All right, we'll get into some heavy radio history here with some older tracks. What do you got, Eric?
Yeah, I got Rock and Roll Party in the Streets by Axe. I found this. We were record hunting as we always did back in the day, back in high school, and going through the old vinyls, and I saw this cover, and I was like, Axe, who's this? So we picked it up and brought it home, and the first track is Rock and Roll Party in the Streets, and it's still a great song all these years later. So for you, those of you out there who have not heard that, listen to Axe, definitely check them out.
Yep.
Sweet. What other older track do you have, Jeff?
Well, speaking of Metal Church, I got Ton of Bricks. I always love playing that song. That's one of their iconic metal in your face songs. It's just
Pretty
awesome.
heavy. Pretty
Yep.
damn heavy.
I have a funny memory. Speaking of the little club shows where wild stuff can happen. It was seeing Metal Church in Des Moines, and this was I think 3 Inches of Blood was opening from Canada, and there was a punk guy from Des Moines who's been a punk rocker, his whole life, and he was yelling for 3 Inches of Blood to play Ton of Bricks. So it was pretty cringy. But then finally, someone was like, "Yo, dude, that's next. Um, that's coming up next." But yeah, so that just stood out as something that only happens in the smaller venue. But yeah, that song really just. You put that song on and you're going to get amped. I don't think there's any other way.
Yep.
When-
I love playing that song. It was just so much fun.
yeah, and I actually went with a theme for my tracks. It was songs that you were a part of. So one of my next tracks is Sabotage with Paragons of Innocence.
Oh wow.
It's from the Wake of Magellan in 1997. And I was so into these records at this time. It was just such a cool. There's almost some like feeling of the TSO vibe because
Yep.
it was getting more orchestrated, but still really heavy at the same time. And yeah, Paragons of Innocence is one that's always stuck with me. Just the catchiness of the different melodies and the vocals. Yeah, Crank It Loud, Sabotage, Paragons of Innocence from Wake of Magellan.
Nice. I like it. Yep.
Oh yeah. My next one up is American Way by Sacred Reich. This album is super heavy. Sacred Reich is definitely. I didn't used to listen to him a few years back, and then I just started recently getting into him more. Kind of came up in my rotation, and just great band, super heavy riffs. And American Way is definitely one of my favorites of theirs. So definitely go check out Sacred Reich.
Yeah, I almost feel like Sacred Reich and Ex Order have almost, taken up that space that Pantera was so overwhelmingly occupying. Like their newest music from both those bands has been really strong.
I remember with one of my last tours with Metal Church in Europe, we played in Holland, and it was a festival, and I believe Sacred Reich went on like two bands before us.
Hmm.
I'd never heard them before. I knew the name, but they played. It was like, holy shit, these guys are great. It was just
Yeah.
awesome. The audience loved them, and they were super nice guys too. After the fact, it was really cool to talk with them and hang out. But yeah, some good stuff.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Let's
What
see.
next track are you adding to the playlist, Jeff?
Good.
Well, I got another one that I played with Sabotage. This is Beyond the Doors of the Dark.
Oh yeah,
Uh, This is off one of the earlier records. Doc Wackles was the drummer. That was before I came into the band, obviously.
yeah,
But yeah, that song is just one of those. Once you bust into that main riff, wow! It was always it's kind of like Ton of Bricks. As soon as
yeah.
you hit that riff, the audience just lit up, and
Yeah.
yep, a lot of fun.
Yeah, what's rad? Definitely Metal Church and Sabotage have both had songs that have hit that spot on pretty much every record, I think. So,
Yep.
so yeah, my next one is Sabotage with Commissar from Poets and Madman,
Wow,
2001.
that's a good
Another one that just has always stuck with me. I know Al Petrelli had recently said that his stance is that he would love to be able to touch on Sabotage again and do something new or just play a show. And I know there's people all over the world that would love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying. I think we would all love to see that. It's as TSO became bigger, and Paul was obviously totally immersed in TSO. Same with John Oliva, but it's nice to hear how many people still want to see that band. It makes me proud because we obviously must have done something right.
Yeah.
All these years later, the people are still asking for it. But I'll tell you, when we did the Dead Winter Dead tour, and that lineup of myself, John Oliva, Zach Stevens, Johnny Middleton, Chris Caffrey, and El Petrelli, once we got rolling, that lineup was badass. We were on a roll there for a while.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the earlier versions of Sabotage. Also, I love the versions, with Chris Leva and Doc Wackles, great stuff. But that Dead Winter Dead Wake Magellan band really, once it hit its groove, we were good. It was a lot of fun being on stage with that band. But hey, you know what? You never know. You never know. If all the stars align, maybe we'll get together and do something in the future. It'd be nice.
Hell yeah.
Totally. Totally.
Have Heavy Radio 22. I think you got one more pick, Eric.
Yeah, I got one more. I'm actually sneaking in and broke the rules. Snuck in a new one. This is a song called "Chosen and Justified" by Dead Daisies, and this is actually like a super group, if you will, of bandmates. On this is Glenn Hughes singing and Doug Aldrich, one of my favorites, on guitar. And this album just dropped, and great songs. I'm excited to dig into it more. But this single they have out, "Chosen and Justified," definitely go check it out. Super catchy, and just great to hear those guys rocking.
Yeah, check those out on the Heavy Radio playlist on YouTube and Spotify. And
Yeah.
Jeff, I think, do you have one last track for the playlist?
I got one last one. This is Kiss in the song "She," especially from the live album. It's like we mentioned earlier. That album, when I listen back to that, it is metal. Even some of the poppier songs, if you want to even call them that, it's all heavy. But "She" is just one of those songs. Yeah. It's really awesome. It is so heavy. I remember that was one of the first ones I saw in the Midnight Special when I was a kid. It just left a mark. Let's put it that way. But it's a great song.
Yeah, I played the Kiss tribute band thing for a couple of years and played at casinos and stuff like that. And that was always one. I did the Gene part, so that was always one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite ones to do, with the blood spitting, and just the fact that people just seeing the costumes and everything still go crazy, whether it's the tribute or the real thing. You get almost the same reaction from people and from the ladies in the audience. So it was kind of wild stepping into the demon cape there, the demon wings for a while. But yeah, that was a great one to play. A deuce I always loved playing, and that was kind of an easy one to sing, so that probably helped. But yeah, it was just really cool to be part of that whole the KISS phenomenon, because Gene actually, he mentioned us on one of his Family Jewels shows, just because we were one of the active KISS tribute groups at the time.
Oh, nice. You look back at some of that old video, the black and white video from Winterland. I believe it's 1974. But just watch Gene Simmons. He is so ominous, but looking like he's having the best time of his life.
Yeah.
He's got that grin on his face, and I watched that stuff, and it's like he knew something big was around the corner. You could just see it, and man, he was awesome. Still is.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. My last track coming in strong is Trans-Siberian Orchestra with Misery from Beethoven's Last Night in 2000. And I believe this was John Oliva's Mephistopheles on that, which, oh my God, that's just such a it's such a dark and evil little number. And I love when TSO plays those songs live. I just really love that. I love the Christmas music, but I love the non-Christmas albums as well. Like this one is one of my favorites, Beethoven's Last Night. Just the whole story is so perfect for that kind of presentation. And I think Jeff Scott Soto, I think, did Mephistopheles on some of the tours, which was that was pretty excellent as well. The way he did it was pretty rad. He was a great choice.
Yeah, Jeff Scott Soto is awesome. He's been with TSO for a long time, and he really knew how to get the character that Paul was after. But wow, that was a great choice. That took me by surprise. But that record, we did that right after we did the Poets and Madmen record. So you can kind of hear a similarity, I think, in the production. But we kind of had I don't want to say we were on a roll, but we were just in a good head during that time period. And that Beethoven record, it probably doesn't get as much credit as deserved, but it is a really cool story. Musically and lyrically, it's fantastic. So I love doing that tour. That was really one of my most favorite TSO tours that we did.
Yeah, hell yeah. Definitely check out Alta Rain, Mother's Day, Crank It Loud. It's a great heavy radio. Great to add some of those tracks to the heavy radio playlist.
Thanks for being here, Jeff. Thank you for
check out Rat Pack Records, and definitely there's people all over the world looking forward to seeing you, whether it's with TSO or Sabotage. Whatever comes next, it'll make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.